We're live. With me today is Eric Flint. With me today is Eric Flint, the award-winning best-selling author of the 1632 series and a Stellar Guild author. Eric, welcome. And hi. How did you get involved with the Stellar Guild series?
Well, it's so simple. The editor of it is Mike Resnick, who's an old friend of mine, and Mike asked me, in fact, I was one of the very first authors he approached for the project, which is to couple match an established author and new author to write two stories together that in some way connect with each other.
Okay. What does this series do? I understand it's designed kind of to train and develop new talent?
It's that, and also give them exposure to the big wide world. It's easiest for me if I describe what I did. I wrote a novella in a universe that was created by my partner, Chuck Gannon. He actually created this setting. I wrote a novella, he wrote a novella. The two stories mesh with each other. His main character, in fact, appears briefly in my story in a cameo role. And put them together, you have two, they're novella length, put them together, it's like a short novel. And this is a way of it allowed me to write a story. It was steampunk, what's called steampunk, which I'd never done before, so that made it interesting, and it gave Chuck more exposure just because, you know, my name will pull in more readers than his will at this stage in his career. And that's changed to some degree by now, because Chuck has gotten much better known.
Yes.
In the 2-3 years since the book came out.
So basically the point of this is to give exposure to new writers. Do you do any training of them or development of them as the senior writer in the series?
Well, in the case of Chuck, I'd already co-authored 2 novels with him, so I mean, I had been working with Chuck already. This was not difficult. So I don't know about some of the other partnerships. I mean, I'm just not familiar with the inner dynamic. In this case, quite honestly, even Chuck actually started writing 15 years ago, and various things happened. He had to drop out for a while, and then he came back. But the point is, although he was new, he was already and is a very strong writer of his own. So it was more just not so much a matter of me having to train him, but just a matter of working together in a story that we thought would be very interesting, would just help him get more exposure.
Would you be willing or interested in working with a writer who is less far along in the process than Chuck?
Well, I actually do it all the time. I mean, most of for instance, not the very next 1632 series novel, the one after that, Mission of the Mughals, my co-author, Griff Barber, has never published a novel before. And I think he's only had 1 or 2 stories published. I'm working on another novel, another person I know, he's an FBI agent. It's a combined FBI police procedural and urban fantasy, and he's never had a novel published. So I actually work with a lot of authors who are earlier in the stage than Chuck was.
So what do you get out of this partnership? What's in it? You know, it helps them develop. What's in it for you?
Well, I just enjoy doing it, you know. But beyond that, there's an old saying that that until you learn how to teach something, you don't really know it all that well. And I have found I have learned more about writing, probably from having to learn how to explain to someone else what works or doesn't work in a story, that if I don't have to explain to someone else, tends to just be instinctive for me. But when you actually are conscious about it, you'll do it better. So I think that this kind of partnership actually probably benefits the established author as much as it does the junior author.
Yes, that's what I wanted. Thank you. Thank you so much, Eric. Okay, let's see, we got that. Jody, we're so glad you're here with us today. This is Jean Marie Ward for Phoenix Picks and the Stellar Guild series. With me today is Jody Lynn Nye, who, together with Angelina Adams, wrote the Stellar Guild title, Wishing on a Star. Excuse me, I'm sorry. Hello. We are here for Phoenix Picks and specifically the Stellar Guild series with beloved best-selling author Jody Lynn Nye. Jody Lynn Nye was the lead author in the Stellar Guild title, Wishing on a Star. Jody, we're so happy you could be with us. Could you tell our viewers how Stellar Guild helps new authors?
Well, for me, I was an apprentice in a way to Anne McCaffrey on a shared project with other young authors, and I think that Phoenix Pick is doing very much the same thing with Stellar Guild, working with a senior author to guide you along the way and give you sort of an apprenticeship in a nurturing environment to help them make sure that they succeed at writing a project. They're not out in the cold, they're not wondering how they're going to handle a project. They have somebody's hand guiding them in a set project. So for me to be able to work with Angel was a joy. For one thing, she's marvelous to work with, but I was always very happy to give her a hand up in literature. It gives her more exposure than she would have had otherwise, as Anne did for me. And it gives her a project that she can point to and say, I am capable of doing this to a publisher with her own work in the future.
Yes. So you were paying it forward.
I was. I'm very happy to have done so.
Do you plan more titles in the Stellar Guild series?
I'll have to talk to Shahid about that. I hope that the opportunity will arise. It was a lot of fun.
Great. Well, thank you, Jody.
Thank you very much.
We're done. So, how did you get involved with the Stellar Guild?
Well, Shahid Mahmood came up to me at Balticon when I was the guest of honor, and he told me about the project he had in mind, that to write novellas for publication in the short form. And I was marginally interested, but really it was not something that I was going to put a priority on because I could write a novel for a major publishing house. And then he said, but you get to work with an apprentice, somebody that you can bring on, a junior author. And then I said yes, because it's important to give opportunities to people who, like myself, worked with a senior author and had that kind of hand-holding and nurturing to bring us forward into a professional standard.
What does working with a professional author give an aspiring author?
Guidance, encouragement, the knowledge that comes only from years of experience, of having been in the trenches, having undergone severe editing, and not really knowing if what you're doing is good or not. But I have a lot of experience of seeing what's out there, of having been told by people, this works, this doesn't, this moves the story along, this doesn't. And instead of having something sent back endlessly again and again by an editor, to have your partner, your nurturer, your matron, your patron say, okay, if you tighten this up, if you make this stronger, if you bring out this character, then you have a real selling story.
And the whole apprenticeship process. And the whole apprenticeship process worked for you too, didn't it?
It really did. It really did. And I'm forever grateful for that. So I am paying it forward.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Apologize for taking so long. Why did you get involved with the Stellar Guild series?
I got involved with it because I saw yet another way besides the magazine to help new writers get established. And if you're a new writer, nothing gets you as established as collaborating with Harry Turtledove or Larry Niven or somebody like that, and sharing full cover credit. And you might also learn a little something or other from the way they do their novella, but mostly it gets you 30 times the exposure you would have gotten on your own.
How can new writers approach you or someone who might be willing to do Stellar Guild?
Well, Stellar Guild, they don't approach me. Stellar Guild, I approach the superstar writers because they choose the protege they want to work with. I don't assign that. The way you sell to me is with the magazine Galaxy's Edge. We say that it's by invitation only because I can't read 800 slush submissions a month. but I have yet to not invite anybody who has ever asked. And when I speak to classes, either at conventions or Writers of the Future, I begin by saying, you're all invited. Now don't ask about that again, just send me stories. And that's the way it works.
So anyone who reaches out to you at a convention has the option of submitting.
Absolutely. The problem is if we advertised it as an open market in, say, Writer's Market and Writer's Digest, we really would get over 1,000 submissions a month. Every magazine I've ever had anything to do with has over 1,000 a month, and we just don't have the time or the money right now to hire 4 or 5 slush readers, which is what we would need. So we're a little more careful, but if you want to write a story for me, here I am, send it.
So that applies to the contributors to and the pledgers to this Kickstarter?
Yes, indeed.
Good. That's what they want to hear. Thank you, Mike.
Okay.